Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, we have Michael Sokoll. He's a senior managing director on Nasdaq's market intelligence desk with our midday update. Mike, it's great to have you with me as always. And stocks, for the most part in the morning, drifting in that really tight range. In 11:45, we got that sell-off again on trade deal delays.
Yeah, stocks weren't doing much, but yeah, the trade deal delays are the kind of thing that would sell off stocks. One of the underpinnings of the rally, in addition to earnings, has been hopeful talk of a de-escalation of some of the trade rhetoric. So that was looking for November, now for pushed out to December. Just adds uncertainty, so stocks sold off a bit.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that there wasn't more of a sell-off. If you take a look at the Nasdaq 100, it only sold off about 0.4%, maybe 4.5%. In months prior, that would have been a significant move, and it's back to down about 0.3% now.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think the market's gotten itself accustomed to the idea that we're not going to get something groundbreaking. It's going to be pretty modest, whatever is dealt with, and so this way both sides can sort of claim victory and push off all of the hard trade decisions for later. And so I don't think the market's expecting very much, and that's probably why you don't see a super, large sell-off.
Phase one's supposed to be the easy part of the deal.
That's
Phases
right.
2 and 3 are the ones that are more difficult, and I don't know if they can even get phase 1 together. What are the chances of going beyond that?
That's right. And so, time will tell. Let's see if we can get even phase 1 done before we move on to those next two. Yeah.
But you brought up a great point. Going into today's session, the major averages were hitting all-time high after the past few sessions.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the Fed being very accommodative. And so there's not many more alternatives. Rates are very low. Earnings came in worse than expected, if you want to characterize it that way. And the China, trade had been positive last week, so all those that kind of fueled the move to the records, and we're just a little bit off that today.
All right, we could speculate all we want on the fundamentals. Let's pull up our chart so we can get some confirmation on price action here. This is a longer-term one. What are you taking a look at on the desk?
So this was done by our technical analyst on the desk, Brian Joyce, and he's awesome. But what you can see on that 30-33 level there was, if you will, the prior resistance point, and we broke through that fairly significantly last week. So that was a very bullish sign, momentum-wise. And then when you get to just about yesterday, you see where it says doji there. It's a really tiny little notation there, but it has to do with the fact that the open and the close range was very narrow. And so that tells you something. It means kind of we're in equilibrium, and that the bulls and the bears are fighting it out to about equilibrium. That's usually a warning that you might be getting near a top. And then yesterday's, where it says bearish engulfing, just simply means you had a little bit broader of a range, but lower. So that was just a warning sign technically, and it just sort of dovetailed what we saw today. So where you have support probably is right down to that 30.66 level, which was that new high. And that, in fact, was just about the low today.
Yeah.
So people are watching the tech.
Well, and that's what's been really frustrating for traders, especially, is this narrow range. And I remember we had that pattern for a while in 2018 as well.
Yeah.
And that was right before we got that sell-off in December. You could speculate it was on the Fed and raising interest rates and so forth, but it does feel very reminiscent to what we saw last year.
Yeah, so you can't trade just on technicals or just on fundamentals. You put it all together, though, and it seemed to be telling the same story today.
All right. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me at MarketSite. And thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.